Mr. Mannini, do you accept Europe?
The question is not Europe or no Europe. I'm European by birth and culture. I suppose we are all European. But I think the correct question should be, what kind of Europe do you want and mainly do you need? Is this a good Europe for you? Is this a good Europe for us? Sometimes they ask if Europe is a big state or if it is a group of states. So, what are the characteristics of a state? A state must have a currency, an army, an administration. These are the three most important characteristics of a state. So it means that our countries are not states anymore, but neither is Europe. And it's a big problem because we have not a national state to defend our currency, our independent monetary union. It means that we can't cope with asymmetric shocks affecting different areas. Let's assume that an asymmetric shock moves the demand from the country A to the country B with unemployment, deflection for country A, and employment, inflation, an increase in demand for country B. So what happens? Under a condition of flexible exchange rates, it's easy for the country A because just a simple devaluation would allow more demand, an increase in demand, more employment. And so the demand moves from the country B to the country A. So, I mean that with only and the same currency, it's impossible to make any monetary policies aimed at absorbing the crisis affecting different areas.
Are there any euro-related benefits, or is it just all negative?
Of course, there are some benefits indeed, otherwise we were not here to speak about euro. So, what are the benefits? With and only and the same currency, we can have more credibility, more stability, and appreciation to attract better foreign direct investments. This virtuous system generates confidence, and confidence is a key word for financial markets. It's a key word to attract foreign direct investments. But now all the countries appear selfish and liking towards all those in needs. This system, virtuous, generates confidence just if there is a blood pact between all the countries. And it means that those in needs get immediate support from the richest countries. That's the Europe we want. That's the Europe we need. So now, with this Europe, it's very, very difficult to defend this virtuous system. So, from giving up our independent monetary policies, we can get some benefits just if we are one for all and all for one.
When did the idea of the single currency originate?
In 1998, in Hanover, there originated the idea to study the benefits of an economic and monetary union. So they start to study under the president Delors, under the leadership Delors, the benefits of this future of and only in single currency. Then, in 1992, European Council of Maastricht endorses the famous Maastricht parameters and signed the famous Maastricht Treaty. These parameters were aimed to make our countries more homogeneous. Just to make our countries more homogeneous. The most important parameters were three. First was the inflation. Each country undertakes not to exceed by more 1.5% the average inflation rate of the three best performing countries. The second parameter was the deficit. Every country has not to have a deficit more than 3% of GDP. And third one, but not less important, the public debt. Every country has a public debt, and it has not to be more than 60% of GDP. So these parameters are just aimed to make our country more homogeneous. Let's assume that I go to a bank and ask for funding. I will be judged according to my income and my assets. So my income and my assets, not just my income. I will be judged to my real estates, to my credits, my debit, my income. Maastricht parameters are just inflation, public debt, deficit, but not public credit. For example, Italy, a big country with a big public debt, is a good country because it has also a public credit, very important public credit. The difference of Italian public debt and Italian public credit is just 100 billion euros. So it means that Maastricht parameters are not important to make a rating, to study how sound a country is, but just to make our countries more homogeneous.
And so what about the future of Europe?
Europe is still in time to understand the value of cohesion, of solidarity. Our countries have a GDP 3 times that of China. And it's very important. Why we want to lose that? If we can't share the value of dialogue, if we can't share the values that were in mind of our founding fathers, De Gasperi, Adenauer, Schuman, we will be condemned to the abyss with the poorest countries dragging the richest one downwards. The more developed and richer the countries are, and the more dramatic their fall will be. That's the future of Europe. Our government have a great responsibility to make momentous reform, and we citizens are waiting for them to do so. So up with Europe!